What's up, and welcome back to the Kind of Funny screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the sad boy himself, Barrett Courtney.
Tim, the Boba boys are back. Let's go.
Oh, shit. That's a good shirt. That is a high-quality shirt, everybody. Oh, my God. Then we have, of course, Anthony Carboni in a Boba Guys shirt. What world are we living in? That was too good.
I didn't get the memo. I've got a Boba Fett controller around here somewhere. I should scramble faster.
And that voice that you just heard is her very first appearance here on Kind of Funny. Saige Ryan from Smosh Games and Pixel Circus. She does a show called It's Too Early with one Anthony Carboni. Of course, you all know and love so very much. But last week, the three of us boys here did our little Boba Fett reactions. And I was like, you know what? I want more. We need some more voices. And then boom, here we go. We got Saige. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love to talk about a Star Wars.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does.
I'm sure you guys do that all the time. So this is just like doing it in a different place. You know, it's kind of like seeing your teachers outside of school where like it feels wrong, but like it's real.
Well, here's the biggest difference is on It's Too Early because look, it's 8 a.m. Everything just happened. We're not doing spoilers. So here we get to actually say the stuff where on It's Too Early we get to get up and go, it's really good.
You know how it is.
Like it.
you gentlemen know how it goes. You've got your news show where you got to do your news, and that's why you had to create this show, because you got to talk about the spoilers.
Exactly. Now, this again, of course, this is the Kind of Funny screencast where each and every week, at least once a week, we react to the latest in TV, movies, and movie trailers. The first couple of weeks have had a whole bunch of things going on, so there have been multiple episodes, and that will continue, including this week where we're doing Boba Fett, but we will also be doing DC's Peacemaker. Episodes 1 through 3 come out, I think, tonight as of recording, but we're not going to record our review until Friday because there's 3 episodes. We want to give everyone time to kind of watch them because they come out at midnight, so that's a whole thing. But we will be reacting, of course, here on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny screencast, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free, if you wanted to watch live as we record it, you got to go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like our Patreon producers, Molecule, James Davis, and Pranksy have done. We appreciate you all so very, very much. But let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. Saige, I want to start with you.
Oh, with me.
Well, so here's the thing. First off, start off with your thoughts of the show so far, and then get into what you thought about Episode 3.
So episode 3 was actually my favorite so far by like leaps and bounds. It was the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett so far that had me like doing the thing where you readjust in your chair and you're like, oh man, okay, we're doing it. We're getting into it. It dove into a lot of the things that I love about the Star Wars universe. When they said like there's a group of teens doing body mods, I was like, let's go. Okay. As soon as they said it, I was like, yeah, no, this is what I'm here for. A lot of the first 2 episodes have been this kind of like a lot of setup, and a lot of this first season we know is going to be a lot of setup, but I think this was the first one that didn't feel like primarily setup for me, that I was like, oh, this one's a show. Okay. I think we might be arriving at a nice little show here.
Interesting. Barrett, what'd you think?
I'm in a weird spot. I think this episode had some of my favorite scenes and moments so far in the first 3 episodes. But at the same time, I think it's my least favorite episode. I think it can be summed up in the speeder chase scene. The slowest chase scene that I think we've ever seen in Star Wars, that reminded me of like the commentary on Manos the Hands of Fate in the intro, where they're just driving around for a while and they make the joke of like, this is the slowest car chase scene ever in a movie. Where it's like there's cool ideas, there's some fun moments, but overall,
there's some Power Ranger mopeds.
Yeah, and like, but overall, it just kind of felt clunky and weird to me overall. Like, I loved the, we were wondering if we were going to get another flashback this episode, and like when we first got into another flashback this episode, I was like, all right, but then it led to like I think one of my favorite moments in the show so far. We got the fight scene with how do you say his name? Because I've only ever read it, so it's like I don't.
What, Black Chrysanthemum?
Chrysanthemum. Yeah. You had that
a funny thing. Can I say real quick? A funny thing. Kieran Gillen, who created Black Chrysanthemum for the Star Wars comics, tweeted out today that it literally in his first script for Darth Vader #1, Black Chrysanthemum's name was Nubaka.
Holy shit.
Before he named Black Chrysanthemum, he's like, I don't have a name for this guy yet. He's New Baka.
That is awesome.
New Baka does not accurately represent how freaking ripped that Wookiee is.
Oh my god,
that Wookiee is built.
He is terrifying.
Absolutely swole.
Like Chewbacca was scary in theory, but and you got some moments where he's like, oh yeah, he's a big Wookiee and he can mess people up. But like we really got to see it in this episode of like just Wookiees just absolutely kicking ass. Yeah, there were like moments that I liked, but there's just like. It did feel a little bit like they were still setting things up. I don't love how the episode ended, and I think that's like what really kind of left me off. Where I'm like, all right, I kind of see where we're going, but at the same time, I'm still wondering where we're going. So yeah, I'm kind of in this weird in between where there's so much I really liked about it, and so much where I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Carboni.
Yeah, I get what Barrett's saying. I also kind of see where Saige is too. I think there were a lot of great moments here. Like we said, this is Book of Boba Fett is a sneaky backdoor world building exercise for the Star Wars TV universe that is to come. They're using Boba Fett as a character to bring in all of these things like Saige was talking about. Like, we know there are people who do body mods and that kind of stuff in Star Wars. We know that there are these syndicates. We know all of this stuff is happening, and we're using Boba Fett to introduce us to all this stuff. And I think this was the first episode where we're really starting to see what he's getting himself into, in a certain extent. I love angsty cyborg biker teens so much.
I knew you
so
would.
much.
I knew you would, Carboni.
I love like with their beautiful Vespa-like speeders that come in candy chrome colors.
For sure.
Sweet little space Vespa. I have that in my notes here.
They're very beautiful. They're very beautiful for a gang of like hacker punk cyborgs, but they're beautiful. And I agree that some of the stuff, it feels like they threw in some action because they were like, whoa, we've been really light on action. And I think the biggest thing that hit me this episode, the thing that made me go, oh, okay, I see why people aren't getting into this. I love the story of Boba Fett coming into his, like, getting past his emotional damage and his anger and trying to be a better person and trying to atone for the sins of the past. The issue is, on screen, we haven't really seen much of that past. And I think that's the trick that's sort of leaving me feeling a little less than with the show. I really love the show, but I think if I was a huge Boba Fett fan, I think I would feel like we skipped a lot of the stuff about Boba's life that I wanted to see in favor of this stuff. And I don't know how I would feel about that. It's a redemption.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I don't know. Tim, how did you feel?
Yeah, I'm kind of in a mix of all you guys. So I've been kind of like warm on this show so far, where I'm like, it reminds me a little bit more of Mandalorian season 1 than season 2. And for me, I preferred season 2 vastly to season 1. But I think the problem with it is it almost feels like a retread of season 1. I feel like even in this episode, we're starting to see a lot of things where, okay, there's this now there's a rancor that he's going to bond with or whatever. Like, this just feels familiar to things that we've already seen in Mandalorian, and like them both being Mandalorian bounty hunters and stuff. It being so much on Tatooine and like these set pieces that at this point we have seen so many times. Like the joke of like, oh, it always goes back to Tatooine. Like, these shows are getting to the point where it's like, oh man, we always go back to Jabba's palace. And I know that sounds like a silly thing to complain about because that's kind of the point of the show. And what's funny is I rewatched episodes 1 and 2 leading into 3, and I liked both of them a lot more than I did the first go. And I think it's just because of what the show is and how it's kind of just structured and what its main function is, which is this kind of lore and world building stuff. Like, it works better when you know what's going to happen, when you're not like wondering for reveals and surprises and kind of like trying to guess the plot and stuff. When you're just kind of like, okay, I already know how this goes, so now I can kind of just like
you're just
let it wash over me.
Yeah.
Like, then it kind of works a lot more. So getting into this episode, I thought, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm ready and I'm prepared I know what I'm getting into. And I left it being like, maybe I need to rewatch this one again. And because it's weird where Robert Rodriguez is really hit or miss for me. And I think overall, I would put it more in the miss category than the hit for what I'm looking for, especially from Star Wars type stuff. And the idea of the augmented teens, I'm like, this is cool. I loved Alita Battle Angel. I can vibe with that in Star Wars. Like, that is awesome. Cool. But then when the more we get these teens, the more I'm like, oh, this is more Spy Kids than Alita. And that's not really what I want from Star Wars.
I think we have 1 Alita and 5 Spy Kids.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, it's a weird place for a Boba Fett.
Yeah, because you want more Alitas. You want it at least to be a 3 Alitas, 3 Spy Kids. You want an equal mix.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all things should
well,
be.
and I think that's the thing is like when we talk about this as world building and sort of table setting, like I like the first season of The Mandalorian, I think a lot more than other people because I was already in the mood to sit back and let this happen. I was like, they're doing whole seasons of this thing. Season 1 is just, hey, let's establish the guy in the world and some characters. And then by the time we get to season 2, we'll start getting all this stuff coalescing. And I feel like they're taking the same strategy here, but they're taking the same strategy in the same kind of setting with the same kind of people.
Yeah.
Which makes you feel like you're treading it over again. And look, Robert Rodriguez wants to make a series about these cool biker cyborgs. And you can feel that, right? When they're introduced, you're like, Robert Rodriguez wants to make a cyberpunk Star Wars show.
Yeah.
And Jon Favreau likes the characters, And
I'm not mad at that idea.
No.
Yeah, totally.
But that car chase against the Major Domo, it really was like the Austin Powers golf cart.
It was. And that sucks, right?
It felt like a joke. Like, it honestly felt a little silly. Like, I thought they were going to make some kind of commentary on it at some point, watching these little Vespas just kind of like...
Yeah, I wanted Boba to be like... at the end, be like, y'all are fucking dorks or something.
Yeah. They played the Major Domo. They've been playing the Major Domo for comedy so hard that by the time he starts running away, you're like, well, what is he going to do? He's not really a threat. He's silly.
Yeah.
It's like, don't let the silly man get away. He'll make more jokes.
Totally. That whole scene to me was really, really weird. And it almost felt like a threat to us. It almost felt like, are you going to sit through this? Like, are you going to take this seriously? Because this is happening in a Boba Fett show. What's weird is having rewatched 1 and 2 leading into it, seeing the action scene, the train heist.
The train is so good.
It had some faults here and there, but I looked past them all because it was rad and it was well choreographed and the stakes were high and it felt fun. It felt like a Fast and Furious heist. I love that. Then you see this and it does feel more Austin Powers-y. Even when the music kicks in, it was the least Star Wars sounding music I've ever heard. And that's a weird kind of thing for me is I'm simultaneously complaining that we're just getting the same thing over and over and Tatooine and blah, blah, blah. But then when we get something different, I'm complaining as well. And I think that's kind of the Star Wars in a nutshell, right?
Mm-hmm.
But seeing the chasing and the Major Domo character, which last week I was even saying, like, he reminds me of Amy Sedaris, who we see in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed. That was fun.
I caught her.
Yeah.
But they're my least favorite parts of these shows. And it's because it doesn't feel right to me. Like, it feels like they're not in the same world.
It
and I finally put...
It doesn't feel authentic.
Word to it.
It feels like they're theater acting, and that's like that's the thing that takes me out. Where it's like they're playing up the characters that they are cast as, and that's the problem that I definitely agree with you, Tim.
It reminds me of like theme park attraction versions of characters as opposed to actual characters. Like when you're at Disneyland and you see Boba Fett come out and he starts dancing. And you're like that's Boba Fett, but like it's silly because he's dancing. Like then you go to buy a Coca-Cola and then somebody's there like joking and shit. Like that the Joker Coca-Cola sales guy feels like this Mayor's Domo dude.
Right. Like if you if you met Boba Fett at the theme park, he wouldn't be allowed to be like too mean to you.
Yeah.
Right. Like he wouldn't be like he couldn't be too mean. Yeah, I sort of get that. I think there are ways that they could have played up. And look, I'm not sitting here telling Robert Rodriguez and Jon Favreau how to write and direct something, but I think that there are some things that could have been done for pacing for me that I think would have made this thing feel a little more urgent. If the Major Domo drove away and drove immediately into the safety of a Pike base or the Pike's Landing, right? Yep. And these biker kids had to turn around because, oh shit, the Pikes are here and the mayor's working with the Pikes.
That would
Like,
have
there's
connected those really well.
right,
Those didn't
but
have to be two separate moments.
they went for the fruit cart joke instead.
Like,
you know what I mean?
literally, oh my God.
They
it
said
felt
my
like it never
cabbages.
ended.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I really did love my big question with Black Chrysanthemum was, motherfucker, how did you get in here?
I know.
Fennec Shand and 5 cyborgs and two of these Gamorrean guards are hanging out, and Black Chrysanthemum walks in.
Yeah, but I love that too. It's like, and it's like, I don't know if I need an explanation, but I love that of like he.
Oh, we're gonna get a whole show about it, Barrett.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
and he is like a bounty hunter, like and like a hired kind of gun, and I love that even this big, bulking Wookiee was able to like sneak in here undetected. Because at first I thought it was like a dream or some shit. And I was like, how did he get in here? And then like when they actually like go into the main palace room and like capture him and stuff, I was like, man, this is actually like kind of cool. Just like.
Very cool.
He's good at what he does. If he's able
very
to,
good.
Yeah, that was really
Dude,
cool.
watching a Wookiee bite someone, I was like,
That
yes.
was wild. But
I
this
want to
does
know
lead
what
me-
the jaw strength is like.
This leads me to my biggest complaint about the Book of Boba Fett so far, is that they set up Fennec Shand to be the baddest, the coolest, the small bits of fighting we've actually gotten to see her. Wow, I had no words for that sentence. The small amount of fighting that we've actually gotten to see her do when the camera's focused on her, she's awesome. She's so freaking cool, and we know that as Star Wars fans. We know to be absolutely fearful of Fennec Shand, and yet they keep putting us in these situations where I'm like, couldn't Fennec have just handled that? Like, canonically, Fennec could have just handled that. It brings me back to that shield scene when they're being attacked and then surrounded by those shields. And because they're focused on Boba Fett in that scene, Fennec is just in the background getting her butt kicked the entire time. Like, they were just like, we're not going to put in any fight choreo for her here, really. We're just going to let them hit her a bunch. When, like, then when the camera shifted, okay, she can be a badass again. Like, that's cool. We're fine with it. There are so many scenarios where I'm like, how dare you put this incredible character in and not do her absolutely any justice yet?
Dude, the one note I have is I really like Fennec. Like, I really like.
Coolest.
Hold on. I really like Fennec. Like, I really like Fennec. But why? She sits cool. Do something.
Oh my God, she sits so cool. She's so calm.
So cool.
And everything
so
that we like
calm
know
about it all.
about Fennec from before this show,
Yeah.
we know to like revere Fennec Shand. But they're not giving it to us at all. And I keep seeing like combat start and being like, ooh,
Here we
okay.
go.
Here we go. And then her coming in at the end and being like, I pressed a button. And I was like, no, no.
Yeah.
No,
Going back
why
to
did we watch the old man get thrown around in his underwear instead of
God.
watching Fennec kick his ass?
So true. Before we move on, though, let me tell you about our sponsors.
Guess what I use all the time, ladies and gentlemen? DoorDash. That's right. I come down here, I record the shows, I come upstairs, Jen's taking care of our newborn, is a 3-month-old, our 3-month-old, and guess what? We're both too tired to make food, so we order on DoorDash. We do it all the time, and you should too. You've got back-to-back meetings, errands to run, and chores to take care of. What's the secret to clearing your to-do list? A little help from DoorDash. Along with the restaurants you love, you can now get groceries and other essential items delivered to your door with DoorDash. Get drinks, snacks, and other household items in under an hour. With over 300,000 partners, you can support your neighborhood go-tos. Choose from your favorite national chains like Popeyes, Chipotle, and Cheesecake Factory. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter the code GAMES2021. That's 25% off, up to a $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code GAMES2021. Don't forget, that code is GAMES2021 for 25% off your first order with DoorDash, subject to change. Terms apply. Kick off 2022 with a better checking account with no monthly fees, no overdraft fees, no foreign transaction fees, and no service fees. Get all that and then some with Chime, an award-winning app and debit card. They've also got over 60,000 fee-free in-network ATMs all over the place, like at most Walgreens, 7-Elevens, or CVS's. You can access your money when you need it, where you need it. Make sure you make the first good decision of the new year and join over 10 million people using Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames. Banking services provided by and debit card issued by Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank NA members, FDIC. Get fee-free transactions at a Money Pass ATM in a 7-Eleven location and at any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. Otherwise, out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply. Sometimes pay anyone instant transfers can be delayed. The recipient must use a valid debit card or be a Chime member to claim funds. Relationships aren't perfect, and MeUndies is celebrating our imperfectly perfect matches with their new Valentine's Day collection. I don't have to read the ad anymore. I can just tell you I'm wearing MeUndies, ladies and gentlemen. Always have been, always will. You know, not always, I guess. But what happened is I had a bunch of underwear I didn't like that much, and then I tried a couple pairs of MeUndies, and I was like, these are amazing, and I ordered a whole bunch of MeUndies, and now it's all I wear, and I am due for more. Maybe I'll do it here. Back to the ad. Gifting underwear for Valentine's Day? Wow, real groundbreaking. Express your one-of-a-kind relationship when you match your bottom half to your better half in fun limited edition prints. And if you're single, don't worry. You can mingle in matching pairs with your friends or even get dog hoodies and buddy bands to match your four-legged pal. MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners. For a limited time only, get 25% off your first order of matching pairs for Valentine's Day. And as a first-time purchaser, you can also get 15% off and free shipping right now to your door. To get 25% off matching pairs, 15% off your first order, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/KindaFunny. That's MeUndies.com/KindaFunny.
Real quick, I wanted to go back to the Black Chrysanthemum fight scene. I love how this was presented because I love that we're seeing the back to tank for the 15th time and like, cool, we understand this means in and out of flashbacks, whatever. But for it to just be interrupted so violently by him, it reminded me of like video game moments. Like it reminded me of like being in the safe room in Resident Evil and then Mr. X busts through the wall and you're like, wait, I thought I was safe here. And I thought they did a good job kind of making that terrifying and then following it up, rewarding us with a badass action scene. Like for as the chase scene was, this Black Chrysanthemum fight, I thought fucking ruled.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that was sort of the thing that I was waiting for when I said last week, like, they're going to have to change up the way that these flashbacks work. They're going to have to change up this format. And I love that they changed up the format with a big interruption like that. I was a little, like I said, I'm a little confused as to how he got that far without being noticed, but I'm good with it. I'm good with it because we were rewarded with like a really great action sequence. And then like just the Hutt twins appearing again. The moment they capture BK and they're just like, oh, hey man, hey,
we're sorry.
But I love the way they were so matter of fact about it. Like, I love the characterization of Hutts and what Hutts are. And just the whole idea of, we came to apologize. Yeah, we tried to kill you and we didn't, and we're sorry.
Like they're so sneaky and upfront at the same time. Yeah, it was
the right level of scummy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I also love that they're there kind of like that she's like always just fanning herself with a comically small fan and then he's always like grabbing like live creatures and just rubbing it on himself.
Oh, the poor little rat.
Oh my god.
It's so good.
I do have a little bit of a problem with the timing of, okay, so you're leaving because you have discovered that this planet's not worth it. Tatooine has gone to hell. There's an incredible commentary on Tatooine going to hell in this episode, which I do want to get into, but you're like, it's not worth it. Actually, we're out of here. But like one last time you were like, let's see if we could kill Boba.
I know, and that was the
like,
thing that
the night before.
And that was like,
give it a week.
When I was talking about like how I didn't love how this episode ended, like I thought it was cool that they were like, I like the idea of them backing out and being like, hey, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, this isn't important. Why was it important a few days ago? You know, like what, like, just because they captured your bounty hunter, like that was the final straw with like, and you know, like the other syndicate coming in, like
I get the feeling
other syndicate was already in play. Maybe the Hutts didn't know, like that scene just played out in a very confusing way. And then also Black Chrysanthemum also just like awkwardly running away into the desert, I thought was also just like a really weird choice.
He had to run off to the Dr. Aphra comic. Like they can't do too
bye guys, I'll see you in issue 302.
Yeah, they can't do too much with him. He's got to go because he's needed elsewhere in continuity. But I got the feeling that For the Hutts, it was mostly a matter of pride. Like, I got the feeling that it was like, this is Hutt territory, and it always has been, and it's Jabba's, and so we've come to take it back. And then when it becomes, my biggest question is, and I think it's a question that they're actually going to be leading to here, and it's a question that we've been asking over and over. What the fuck is so important about Tatooine? Why do 3 syndicates want to run this place where it seems like everyone is broke, everyone is scraping by, there's not a lot going on, there are a couple people with a lot of money, but like, what is the natural resource? The water has dried up.
A street gang of insolent youths is stealing the water.
They're stealing the water from
Stephen Root from Office Space.
Yeah, the boomer guy from with the red stapler.
I gotta be honest, I loved that because it opened a little door for me of like Star Wars and these smaller individual stories that we're getting to tell on Disney Plus. These are the impacts of the war and the fallouts of the war. The mainline stories are the war. So to open up the door for this story to potentially have even just one thread of scarcity and taking advantage of scarcity, the fact that teens were having to steal water opened up this really interesting moment with Boba Fett as a character to me, of the face that he made when he was like, why do the teens have to steal water? What do you mean? He doesn't understand how bad it's gotten. He doesn't know yet. And
he goes
so
from
intrigued
boomer
to
to
follow
ally
that.
so quick in that
I'm
scene.
so intrigued to
I
follow
love
that.
it.
Right. Because like we don't know exactly where Boba Fett's gonna land on our good guy scale yet.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, he's not Jabba, but like, he's the, he's doing like he's a crime syndicate, he's fighting with the Dome, he's doing all of these things. So in this scenario, it opens up this path to good guy crime that I'm really into, of being like, oh no, teens shouldn't be stealing water. And you shouldn't be taking advantage of people's lack of access to life-saving necessities. And that would be the direction I would kill for this show to follow, is like the kind of Robin Hood crime.
And that's why I love the flashbacks and like kind of, I don't know if it's the final one and stuff, and like how that kind of led that motivation in that scene where he's like, you're taking advantage of these kids, right? Of, we get the other flashback of him trying to fight for the Tuscans and going to the Pikes and being like, hey, you gotta pay us to be using these lands and stuff like that. Like, I'm here to represent them. And then coming back to, his newfound family, and they're all dead.
Dude,
and he has to
that
bury
shit hit
them.
me hard.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that
know.
was
And
rough.
because like it was one of those things where I was like, all right, we're getting another flashback scene. All right, like, okay, like now we're getting a little more like plot and like but I've loved like the character and story building in the flashback stuff. I was like, all right, now we're getting into a little more of the implications of like what happened here with the Tuscans that have like led him down this path. And yeah, to get back to the village, and he's got to like kind of clean it up and give them their not burial, but like he puts them in the fire and stuff like that. And him having the little stick that the kid had, that fucking hurt. And again,
now,
that
we
was
didn't
like
see
one
a
of those,
body.
yeah,
Just saying.
That Tuscan child is not coming back. But it was one of those things, and that's what I was talking about, where it was like, I think overall this episode was really clunky and weird, but it also had some of my favorite moments and scenes. Like, this was one of my favorite moments.
We're
sorry, go ahead.
We're setting it up. You know what I mean? Like, we're weaving all the threads together. I love the idea of the Pikes. I love the fact that we still haven't seen Crimson Dawn, but Crimson Dawn is being whispered about and talked about. I do love that we're getting this underbelly and this working class of Star Wars, like Saige was talking about. We got, one of my favorite moments in The Last Jedi was the idea of like, when he gets asked on Canto Bight, like, hey man, who do you think makes money off of these wars? Every X-Wing you see is made by somebody. You know what I mean? Every weapon that the rebellion or the resistance scrabbles to get their hands on, somebody's got to pay for those weapons. And I do love the idea of seeing the classism of that. I do wonder what makes Tatooine itself, and I still come back to this, other than pride, other than a route across a planet, which they could take another route. Planet's all desert. There are 3 towns on the planet. Take another route with your train. What is the importance of Tatooine? And I think we're going to find that out. And I think we're also, like I said last week, I don't think Boba Fett wants to be as embroiled in this as he thinks he does. I think what we're seeing in that moment where he's like, why are teens stealing water? Do I want to be the god of teens stealing water? We asked.
And he said yes.
We asked like, hey, does Boba Fett, like, how far does Boba Fett go being the daimyo of this? Because we know by the time he shows up in The Mandalorian, he's just a dude flying around again with Fennec.
Right.
How long can he put up with this? And what happens to Tatooine when he decides, I don't want to be a crime boss. I thought I did.
Isn't that timeline-wise, though, this is the latest? What's happening in the present in Boba Fett is the furthest.
No, because he's got to get his.
Yeah, this is the furthest. He's already got his armor back.
Furthest. Yeah, because he's gotten the armor back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is post Mandalorian.
This is post Mando. We're going pre Mando to post Mando.
Yeah.
I still want to know what's important about Tatooine.
Yeah, no, dude. Honestly, like that's. I hope that we get some of it, and like it does seem like they're kind of like planting the seeds for us to get that. I said this last week, and I love the doubling down on. There used to be water on Tatooine, like there used to be ocean. Like that is such a cool idea. Getting all the flashbacks to Camino and seeing like the water there. Like I think that like that they're showing us those visuals for a reason. And I do think that it's a little, again, goes back to like retread of like, okay, so we're getting flashbacks to Boba Fett being a little kid, like thinking about like what he remembered in the same way we got
we've
Din
got
Djarin doing the exact same thing.
We've got one shot of Daniel Logan.
Yeah, I know.
Let's use
it's
it.
the same fucking thing. I think I like that you bring up the Camino thing, because I was wondering like why when they first showed it, I was like, oh, we're gonna get more on Camino, and then it of course transitioned over to Tatooine again. And I was like, huh, interesting. The more I thought about it, I don't know if it's thinking about like the water and the sand, but I do think a lot of what this story has done so far is just Boba Fett trying to feel like he belongs to something again. And I think it is interesting that I think they're making it a point that he is dreaming more about these Tuskens than his own actual father. Right. I think there's something there. And I hope that they dive more into that. I don't know if that's too much for them to kind of tackle in, 7 episodes, but I would love to see more of that.
Well,
Really-
I think it's part of his background now, like this patchwork quilt of loss that is Boba Fett's story, right? He was part of essentially there were hundreds of thousands of him, right? And they're all gone now. Right, his father is gone now. Camino is gone now. He found another community with the Tuskens. The Tuskens are gone now, and I think it's something where they're trying to show us that he feels pushed to be this crime lord because it seems like the only thing he's ever wanted that he's able to get. But what he really wants is a family.
And a family of cyberpunk Zoomer kids. I want to
and Danny Trejo.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Rancor because, like, I like when they brought that thing in, and you kind of see the Rancor keeper in the distance. I was like, huh, that guy kind of looks like Danny Trejo.
Looks like.
And then it shows him again. I was like, oh shit, that's Danny Trejo.
Robert Rodriguez ain't gonna show up without him. Saige, I think you muted yourself.
I did. Thank you. I said Danny Trejo starring in How to Train Your Rancor.
Oh my god.
They're gonna ride around on Rancor.
Dude, Jon Favreau is so in love with that holiday special because it was the first time he saw Boba Fett, and he talks about it all the time. And the idea of Boba Fett riding this giant beast,
I love
is
it.
like all he wants. He just wants to make it happen.
I understand like the similarities of like Jin and like the connections to animals that the Mandalorian have. This scene didn't remind me of that though, and it just I think it was just like how the scene played out. We got to see, and we've seen little tidbits here and there of like Boba just kind of being a dork in a way, and just like him kind of like falling in love with this creature, and Danny, like we also got to see like another side of Rancors that isn't through the lens of Luke Skywalker being like about to being eaten by one, right? And I really loved and appreciated that, and just like we're like the robot's like, hey, we've got business, and he's like, I'm busy, I'm petting my pet, all right, give me a fucking minute. And I almost clapped because I was like, I get it,
Yeah,
Boba Fett.
Barrett, do you think that this is the same Rancor that they introduced in Bad Batch? I'm so fuzzy on it that I don't remember, but they
Like
did
the
introduce a
timeline
baby.
shit.
Rancor in that.
No,
that was being
because
sent to Jabba's palace.
Bad Batch, you have to remember, takes place soon after Order 66.
It's 19
Yeah.
BBY.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So that's
dude,
going to be.
I mean, it
It's
is
like
bigger, but
it's like 30 years ago, 40 years, like
Yeah.
30 years ago. at this
Because
point.
we're in
that could
5
make
right
sense.
now, I believe.
But that Rancor was also for Jabba.
Right, and remember,
This is
ABY.
5
We're
years
the
after
Battle of
Jedi.
Yavin.
but
Yeah.
remember that we are told that this Rancor is a calf. It's new. It's baby.
Oh, it's baby.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We're
It's
in.
baby. So
We're
it
in
can't be the same
5
one because
ABY.
that
Also,
Yeah,
Rancor.
yeah.
Z-Pole in the chat says the Bad Batch Rancor was also orange, so that's a good point as well.
Mhm. It was also animated, so you know.
I know, yeah, it can't be the same one.
Like,
Yeah, it's interesting that this show kind of overall is like, all right, cool. Let's take this character Boba Fett that, you know, a lot of people have different feelings towards over the last 30 years plus. And the idea is he's a cool dude because he has cool armor. And really that's all he's done. And so this show's kind of like, all right, let's show that even without the armor, he's a cool guy. And like, that's kind of the thesis statement, I think, of the entire thing. I think it's an interesting direction to take Boba Fett, and kind of to your point earlier, Carboni, of like, we're not seeing the bounty hunter stuff. Like with all the flashback is like him hanging out with the Tuskens, and like even all the other stuff, it's like him kind of being this new Jabba type crime lord. And even in this episode, they like he talks to Black Chrysanthemum or about him and mentions bounty hunting as if that was an old life for him. Like he's not a bounty hunter anymore. And
Right.
it's kind of weird that like we don't get bounty hunting Boba Fett ever. Like we just get, I mean, I guess we get him getting the solo and carbonite and all that stuff, and like you didn't need to kill for that, but like
Right.
it's interesting, you know, that like this show, I think it's a ballsy choice, and I don't know if it's gonna pay off, but I'm in for the ride, and I appreciate that we're now 3 episodes in. We have 4 left. So this episode kind of being the weird like tying things together episode, I get, and it makes sense. I'm more interested that we have 4 episodes. That seems like simultaneously a lot to be able to cover a whole bunch more shit, but also like, what are they gonna do in 4 episodes?
Yeah. I wonder if the flashbacks this season, like we don't know if we're getting a second season. Maybe we get another Boba Fett series. Maybe he appears in another series that happens. They got so much stuff in the works, who knows? But once they wrap up this story of Tatooine, I wonder if you remember how young Indiana Jones always starts with old Indiana Jones thinking about young Indiana Jones in every episode. I wonder if we don't always get these stories of older Boba Fett, and like maybe next season, once this is wrapped up, we can see like he can flash back even younger. You know what I mean? We could see that young Boba Fett. I think they're trying to show us who the guy is, and then because I gotta put myself in the mindset of a new fan too, right? I'm being introduced to this old guy who's trying to do the right thing, right? And that's what he's for. He's trying to leave a life behind him. Now they're going to show me like the brutal life that he left behind, maybe in season 2. I don't know.
That's a cool
I'm really intrigued by it because we know from the like Legends continuity a lot of stuff about Boba Fett that is like not necessarily going to be applicable here, but what we know from that is that Boba Fett from this point in his life on essentially only takes bounties to pay for his treatments.
Mhm.
So he's taking large individual bounties and he's doing his best to just fund literally the rest of his life. He develops the rare space cancer from the Sarlacc pit, and the rest of Boba Fett's life canonically is him taking bounties and putting all of that money into these extremely inaccessible treatments to just stay alive. So I kind of thought when we were getting Book of Boba Fett, I was like, oh, we're not going to do that. And then they open on him in this tank and I'm like, we're doing it. So I don't see us seeing that much of him as a bounty hunter, but I look forward to those like big heists that make it worth it just so he can sustain.
Yeah.
And I think that's a cool balance. Instead of showing us, whoa, look how cool Boba Fett is. They didn't have to show us anything. They didn't have to show us anything for us to all think Boba Fett was cool. We all bought in so long ago.
Here's the thing. I feel like I would like a little bit more of Boba Fett being cool in this show. Having said that, when this shitty speeder chase happens and these kids are all bopping around in their colored cars or colored Speedos or whatever the hell, they're going around.
They might have had colored Speedos on, Barrett. You don't know. Don't make that face.
Exactly.
They all have Speedos. Everyone in the gang is getting a Speedo to match their Vespa.
They
That's
have to.
awesome. Sign me up.
But the main girl that I'm sure we're gonna get back at, like, and
Drash.
she's
Mhm.
that's her
Yeah.
name, Drash.
Drash.
Okay, she's gonna be Boba's right hand woman or left hand, I guess, with Fennec, but whatever.
Yeah.
She does the shitty drift to the camera thing, and it doesn't look good at all. And then Boba Fett fucking flies down from his jetpack and
it's
just
the
lands.
coolest
And I'm
fucking
like,
thing.
holy
Yeah.
shit, that was awesome! Like, that's all it took for me to be sold. Like, I'm so weak minded.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is like it's really easy for Boba Fett to be cool. So
Mhm.
what's so interesting is that in this series, instead, we're seeing him repeatedly getting his ass handed to him in a lot of ways, and then having moments of extreme strength that reminds you, oh my God, that's Boba Fett. But we are watching like what this like very revered bounty hunter kind of has become, and then what is the new way that he can be that like kind of cool guy. I don't know. Is it giving water to teens? Maybe.
Maybe maybe it's democratic socialism in space.
Hey,
Maybe
I'd
I'm
be
for
down
it.
for it.
But yeah, that's such an interesting point, Tim, because it kind of does put this cartoony chase in a perspective where it's like this chase was really hard for these space teens who seem tough, but they're only tough for this small town in Tatooine. And Boba Fett's like, I don't have time for this fucking chase scene.
Yeah, totally.
He's
Yeah.
trying to, I think, here's what I think I'm missing from both. Now that we've had this conversation, it's crystallized. Here's what I'm missing from both Ming-Na and Tamora on this. There is a chill that comes with being the toughest person in the room, but it needs to be, I need to feel the rage that you're controlling, right? We're seeing Boba Fett try to be a better person after all of this tragedy and violence. And the only thing we see of the PTSD and the anger is his dreams. I want a little bit more of like, I feel like Boba's going to snap and then he does the right thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Fennec's going to snap, but then she's chill because Boba says chill.
And I feel like there was more of that, Carboni, of what you're talking about in Mando season 2. Like in their little interstitial scenes where they like kind of helped out Mando. Like I felt more of that in not their own show than in their own show, which that's a very interesting perspective. I have one thing. I have one thing left I need to talk about. We need to talk about these fucking pikes. Because here's the thing.
Fish mob.
You know, pikes were kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, at least in the visual medium of Star Wars. I don't know about, unsure about comics. Like, when they were kind of introduced in the animated sense, they're kind of like these cool, weird, sleazy-looking guys. And to translate that into live action, they're just kind of dorky-looking fish boys. I'm going to be honest here. And the thing that really left me wanting at the end of this episode was like, all right, war is coming. Like these pikes are bringing everybody and all this stuff, and like kind of the oh fuck moment when they all come is just like 10 dorky fish boys like kind of getting off of a ship, and like I was expecting them to have hired guns, maybe some familiar faces in that group of hired guns or something, and then like, but no, it's that big moment, and it's just like. These dorky fish boys,
Well,
and that's
how many fish are there? Whole fucking school of them.
Yeah, exactly. A whole fucking school of
They're all
dorky
here now.
fish. And that was really like the thing with like the twins leaving really quickly, and then like kind of this being the last beat. I was kind of like, all right.
Yeah, and that's where the episode 3 out of 7 comes into play, I think. Where it's like not even the halfway point. It's just this weird moment. Because watching the trailers for the show and kind of theorizing of what we thought it could be, and on top of that, just what we expect from a Boba Fett show, the thing I was most interested in, and I still am to an extent, is the idea of who owns what areas of Tatooine, what are the different gangs. The word syndicate is the coolest thing in the fucking world. And like, I love the idea of these crime syndicates and all this. And I feel like this episode, at least so far, and like there's 4 more to prove me wrong, kind of wrapped all that storyline up in a way that didn't feel satisfying, because it was like, cool, this area is these people, this area is these people, this area is these people, but it doesn't matter. It's just these fish guys coming in a big ass plane. And
I think fish guys I think fish guys in a plane are the immediate threat, but I think, you know, they were definitely laying down some exposition about Bib Fortuna gave up power because he couldn't rule all of Tatooine. So he gave it to these families. the families don't like reporting to anybody, and you will have to deal with that. But right now, we've got a fish drop. So, so fish drop first. And then I think the thing that's missing, Barrett, I think the thing that's missing from these live action Pikes is some of the stuff that was in the initial art or the animation where like, do you remember when they had all that art of the Pikes like bearing these fish fangs and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like they had, and their faces were a little more like bisected.
Yeah,
you know?
They were definitely when they took off like their helmets and stuff, like they were more angular. They were more interesting to like kind of look at. And before I forget, shout out to the spider that we get in like a little transition scene and how it like
shout out to the spider monk.
Yeah, and like how it
And
kind
the
of
frog.
did that weird.
I want to talk about that spider monk so bad.
Put your brain in a jar for religion.
Like, they're just gonna let it walk by?
Multiple times.
You're just gonna, hey, spider monk, you don't walk on by without saying howdy?
Yeah.
Come on, let's
I mean, the
chat.
spider
It's
monk
a little
knows the
brain
Jabba
jar.
ain't there. He's looking over there. He's like, I don't know anybody there anymore. And fuck it.
Okay, but hear me out. Spider monks, rise up, take back your temple, let's go.
Ooh.
Here's what I
I
want.
want to
Here's
see
what
Boba Fett go to war with spider monks.
Yo, here's what we need. We need more spider monks. We need more of the decraniated, right? Those robots that don't have skulls. They
Yeah,
just have
awesome.
computers and jaws. I want more of that weird shit. We're touching on the weird, but we're not going exactly into the weird that I want.
You know,
Talking
that's a good point. Real quick about the weird, but then also the least weird we've ever seen in Star Wars. And I feel like Boba Fett, just the first 3 episodes we've seen, gives us some really weird shit and like out there stuff. Even the kids and the augments and the colors that they're all like wearing, that is weird, right?
Yeah,
And
it's very out of place.
it could be good weird, could be bad weird. I'm not fully sure yet.
Mhm.
But then there's also just straight up rats. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
there's
not
a rat
talking
there.
about the hut thing. I'm talking about like in episode 2, there's just a rat, and
Yeah,
it's
man.
like it's weird to me where it's like this is like the least Star Wars feeling things. Like when you look around, like we still get the establishing shots of like any cantina ever or just like the streets of Tatooine, and we see all these like different types of creatures, and it's very Star Wars where it's like we just get random cuts, never introduced to the characters, but yeah, this dude's missing a skull, like whatever, like that shit's cool. I feel like there's just a lot more normal dudes than we've ever
Listen,
had.
man, here's the thing. There's normal dudes in space.
Yeah.
We've seen them. We've seen a few. There's probably plenty of just normal stuff. Listen, for every gerbil that breathes fire, there's just a regular ass rat. You know what I mean?
True.
You know what I mean?
Bunch of
I wanna
snakes
go-
and lizards in what was it called?
Yo, Yoda's roommate is just a regular snake.
Yeah.
He just splits the rent with
That's a
a
good point.
regular snake.
That's a good point.
I do like going back to the Pikes. I do want to say that like the fear of the Pike, and this is the thing where it's interesting because it feels like half of it's for new fans, half of it's for old fans, and like I don't know if they're threading that needle because if you're like Barrett, you're bringing up if you're afraid of the Pikes, or you know the Pikes are a threat because of Clone Wars, you know the Pikes are a threat because like they have alliances with like Death Watch and Darth Tyrannus and like
Mhm.
all of these like.
They don't fuck
took
around.
They don't fuck around.
Yeah.
They took over Mandalore because they have like the backing of like some really big, serious dudes. Without knowing that, if you're just watching these fish boys land, you're right. You go, why is he afraid of those fish boys? He's got a jetpack. You know?
Yeah.
I think that what Boba Fett does, I think The Mandalorian did it a little bit, but the Book of Boba Fett is really committing to it, is all of the biggest things in the universe are happening right outside and they're going to walk by and we're not going to touch it. Like it's just going to it's going to fly by you and you're going to be like, wow, something really big is happening like over there. But we're looking at this. We're actually over here right now.
Right. Like when Black Chrysanthemum's like, gotta go. I'm needed elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our first live action time we've ever heard Dathomir, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of
The
cool.
Witches
and
of
like,
Dathomir. Yeah.
and like even then talking about the potential Crimson Dawn stuff, like that's
Yo,
Oh, God.
Interesting.
can I get some live action Witches of Dathomir, please?
Please.
We know they're
please.
still around after Clone Wars.
Yo, can we intro the space goth girlfriends, please?
Please. Or
That's all I've been asking
Or
for.
we just get Jedi Fallen Order 2 as soon as possible, please.
Okay,
Amen.
wait. Here's something that I want to know. Now
Hit
that we've
me.
got eight live action series, in development or whatever. We got a lot of stuff happening. We gonna run into Cal Kestis
At
Oh,
some
we got
point.
it. We got it.
Does Cameron Monaghan show up at any point in one of these shows that's coming up?
100%.
Maybe not this one.
I'm
but
convinced he's dead by the original trilogy.
Interesting.
I'm convinced, like they're like the trilogy that or the story that they're going to tell in the Jedi Fallen Order games. I have a very good feeling he's going to be dead by the end of it.
Interesting.
I could see it. That makes sense.
The same way where we're kind of like, where's old lady Kira? I want to know where old lady Cal Kestis is,
Yeah. Reveal him.
Reveal him. Are they both alive? Are they smooching? I want to know. What's
Kira
going
and Cal
on.
Kestis smooching?
I don't know.
not,
What are they
everybody?
I don't
doing?
know how I feel about
I don't know.
Hey, everybody,
Let us
check
know in
out.
the comments below if you
Go
want
to
see
my
them
archive of
smooch.
our own page. Tons of stories.
AO3, it's
man.
all Kira and Cal Kestis.
Gotta love it. The last thing I want to say before we wrap up here is I love that every single episode of Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, the credits have the concept art because it's just the best part. No matter what you think about the episode, when that music hits and you just see the badass concept art, I'm like, this is the best show ever.
Every episode, I'm like, man, I miss the Mandalorian theme. And then when the Book of Boba Fett theme hits at the end, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
They got me. They
it's
got
so
me.
good.
It's good. Ludwig
Absolutely
don't
sucks.
miss.
It's a really
Ludwig-
good time to love Star Wars.
Yeah, it is. Oh, speaking of that concept art, I just want to drop one more thing. Did you notice during the chase scene when they drove through that painting and it was the Ralph McQuarrie concept
Jabba
art of
Palace thing.
Jabba's palace?
It's
Like they were just moving all of Jabba's shit out.
It's great. It's great. Carboni, Saige, where can people find you?
Well, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m., you can find 8 a.m. Pacific time. You can find us on twitch.tv/Pixel Circus for It's Too Early, which is our morning pop culture and gaming news show. Did you ever want news before KindaFunny does the news and slightly different? That's what we got.
Love it. Love it.
Us more tired and pretty angry.
Well, that's great. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about the Book of Boba Fett, episode 3. That's what it was. We will return next week with episode 4 because that's how TV shows work. But like I said, we're doing Peacemaker in the next couple days. That's very exciting. But until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.